The war had been going on for 3 years now, and nobody could remember how it started anymore. The Zephyrian Coalition and the Krillian Empire fought each other across 17 star systems near the edge of known space. Their massive ships blasted away at each other day after day, while smaller worlds got caught in the middle. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UE Sakota and watched the stars through the main view screen. He had been called back from patrol duty along the human border 3 days ago. The message from Earth Command was simple but urgent. Find the missing research ship UES Explorer and bring back its crew and cargo at all costs. Morrison was 42 years old and had been in space for most of his adult life. He had short brown hair that was starting to show gray at the sides, and calm blue eyes that missed very little. The Dakota was his first command of a heavy cruiser, and he took pride in keeping his crew safe while getting the job done. The ship was 800 meters long and carried a crew of 300 people. It was one of the newest ships in the Earth, fleet with weapons and shields that human engineers had spent years perfecting. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant stood at the tactical station running checks on their weapon systems. She was 35, with red hair pulled back in a tight bun and green eyes that could spot enemy weaknesses from across a solar system. Grant had served with Morrison for 5 years, and they worked together like parts of the same machine. She never wasted words and always had the battle information Morrison needed exactly when he needed it. Chief Engineer Ben Parker was down in the engine room making sure their experimental fusion drives were ready for whatever they might face. Parker was a big man with thick arms and hands that could fix anything that might break on a starship. He had worked on every type of human vessel built in the last 20 years and knew more about making ships go fast than almost anyone alive. His team trusted him completely because he never asked them to do anything he would not do himself. Amy Watson was in the medical bay checking supplies and making sure the sick bay was ready for casualties. She was a small woman with dark hair and quick hands who had saved more lives than she could count. Watson had volunteered for deep space duty because she wanted to help keep humans safe as they explored the galaxy. She treated everyone the same, whether they were the captain or the newest recruit fresh from Earth. Communications. Specialist Tony Rodriguez sat at his station, monitoring alien broadcasts from the war zone ahead of them. Rodriguez was 28 and could speak 6 human languages, plus basic versions of most alien tongues they had encountered. He was thin with black hair and eyes that never seemed to miss any detail. His job was to listen to enemy signals and figure out what they were planning to do next. Rodriguez had a gift for understanding how aliens thought, which made him very valuable on missions like this one. The Dakota moved through hyperspace toward the Arcturus Nebula, where the 2 alien empires were fighting their latest battle. Morrison had read the files on both civilizations during the trip, and what he learned worried him. The Zephyrians were tall, blue-skinned beings who built their ships out of living crystal that could repair itself during battle. They had been spacefaring for over 2,000 years and considered themselves the most civilized race in the galaxy. Their weapons fired concentrated energy beams that could cut through almost any known material. The Krillians were different in every way possible. They grew their ships instead of building them using biotechnology that humans barely understood. Their vessels looked more like giant sea creatures than spacecraft, and could actually heal battle damage by eating metal and energy. The Krillians themselves were insect-like beings with hard shells and multiple arms, who thought that only the strong deserved to survive. They had been expanding their territory for 1,500 years and showed no signs of slowing down. Both empires had noticed humans when Earth made first contact with galactic civilization 10 years ago, but neither side considered them worth much attention. Human technology seemed primitive compared to what the major powers could build. Human ships were smaller, and their weapons less powerful than what the established civilizations used. Most aliens thought humans might be useful as traders or workers, but not as equals in galactic politics. Knew that attitude might work in their favor during this mission. If the aliens did not take humans seriously, they might not pay attention to one human ship entering their battle zone. The Dakota could slip in and find the Explorer without having to fight its way through alien fleets that could destroy them easily in a direct confrontation. The Explorer had been conducting secret archaeological surveys of ancient ruins scattered throughout the Outer Rim territories. Dr. Carl Mitchell led a team of 20 researchers who were looking for artifacts left behind by a mysterious civilization that had vanished millions of years ago. These precursor beings had built technology that surpassed anything the current galactic powers possessed. Even small pieces of their equipment could change the balance of power between civilizations. Earth Command believed the Explorer had found something important in the contested zone between Zephyrian and Krillian space. The research ship had sent one message saying they had made a significant discovery before going silent. That was 6 days ago, and no one had heard anything since. Morrison suspected the Explorer had either been destroyed by accident during the alien fighting or had crashed somewhere in the battle zone. Rodriguez looked up from his station as new signals came through the long-range sensors. Captain, I am picking up massive energy readings from the target system. It looks like both alien fleets are engaged in heavy combat right now. Grant checked her tactical displays and shook her head. The energy outputs are incredible. Some of those ships are putting out more power than an entire human colony uses in a year. If we drop out of hyperspace in the middle of that fighting, we could be vaporized before anyone even notices we are there. Morrison studied the readouts on his command chair display. The battle was taking place across an area larger than Earth's entire solar system. Hundreds of ships from both sides were trading fire, while smaller vessels darted between the larger ones like angry insects. Debris fields from destroyed ships created navigation hazards that extended for millions of kilometers in every direction. How? Long before we reached the edge of the system, Morrison asked. 47 minutes at current speed, Grant replied. Morrison activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. We are approaching a major battle zone, where two alien civilizations are fighting each other. Our mission is to locate and rescue the crew of the UES Explorer. We are going into a dangerous situation, but I have complete confidence in every member of this crew. Stay alert and be ready for anything. Parker's voice came through the intercom. From engineering. Captain, the new fusion drives are running perfectly. We can push them harder than the book says if we need extra speed or power. Watson reported from the medical bay. Sick bay is ready for casualties. All medical teams are standing by. Morrison felt the familiar calm that came over him before dangerous missions. The Dakota was a good ship with a good crew, and they would find a way to complete their mission. He had no idea that in less than an hour they would be flying into the largest space battle in galactic history, or that their arrival would change everything for both alien empires and for humanity itself. The Dakota dropped out of hyperspace and immediately found itself in the middle of hell. Massive alien warships filled the space around them, firing weapons that lit up the darkness like angry stars. Morrison gripped the arms of his command chair as the ship rocked from nearby explosions. A Zephyrian crystal ship, the size of a small city, was trading fire with 3 Krillian biovessels that looked like giant sea monsters made of metal and flesh. Emergency evasive maneuvers, Morrison shouted over the noise of alarms. Get us away from those capital ships before they notice we are here. Grant worked frantically at her tactical station, while explosions bloomed all around them. Captain, I count over 400 ships in this system. The Zephyrians have about 200 vessels, including 12 dreadnoughts. The Krillians have slightly fewer ships, but their vessels are larger on average. A beam of pure energy passed close enough to the Dakota that their shields flared and the lights flickered. Parker's voice came through the intercom, sounding strained but calm. "Shields are holding, but that was too close. If one of those main batteries hits us directly, we are finished." Morrison watched the tactical display as Grant highlighted the positions of the major combatants. The Zephyrian fleet was arranged in perfect geometric formations, with their largest ships in the center, protected by screens of smaller vessels. Their crystal hulls gleamed like blue ice as they fired concentrated energy beams at their enemies. The Zephyrians fought with mathematical precision that had won them victories for centuries. The Krillian fleet moved like a living thing with individual ships, darting in and out of combat like predators hunting prey. Their bioships could change shape during battle, and their organic weapons fired projectiles that seemed to have minds of their own. Some Krillian vessels were wounded and bleeding fluids into space, but they kept fighting with savage determination. Rodriguez intercepted alien communications and tried to make sense of the battle chatter. "Captain, both sides are focused completely on each other. I do not think either fleet has detected us yet." "How is that possible?" Grant asked, while guiding the Dakota through a debris field of destroyed ships. "We are not exactly invisible. We are so much smaller than their capital ships that their sensors might be filtering us out as debris," Morrison realized. "To them, we probably look like just another piece of wreckage floating around the battlefield." A group of Zephyrian fighters swept past them, chasing a damaged Krillian cruiser. The alien pilots did not even look at the human ship as they flew by. Morrison felt a strange mixture of relief and irritation at being so completely ignored. It was useful for staying alive, but it also reminded him how little the galactic powers thought of humanity. The Dakota moved carefully through the chaos, using debris clouds and disabled ships as cover. Morrison had fought in border skirmishes with pirates and smugglers, but nothing had prepared him for the scale of destruction he was seeing. Entire ships the size of human space stations were being torn apart and scattered across millions of cubic kilometers. The energy being released by this battle could power Earth's entire civilization for decades. Watson monitored the crew's condition from the medical bay and reported that everyone was handling the stress well, despite the terrifying situation around them. Human crews trained for combat in simulators, but actually flying through a battle between galactic superpowers was something else entirely. Morrison was proud of how calm and professional his people remained under pressure. Grant located the explorers' last known position on the far side of the system near a group of asteroids that both alien fleets seemed to be fighting over. "Captain, the research ship was investigating some kind of installation on one of those rocks when they went silent. The problem is that area is currently occupied by about 50 ships from both sides." Morrison studied the tactical plot and saw immediately why both empires wanted to control that particular cluster of asteroids. Long-range sensors detected artificial structures built into several of the larger rocks that were clearly not made by either current civilization. The precursor ruins that the explorer had been sent to study were right in the middle of the heaviest fighting. "Can we get there without going through the main battle lines?" Morrison asked. Parker's voice came through the intercom. "Captain, I can give you microjumps using the experimental drive system. We can hop from one debris field to another and avoid most of the heavy ships." "Do it," Morrison ordered. "Plot a course that keeps us away from the main fleets." The Dakota began a series of short hyperspace jumps that took them around the edges of the battle. Each jump lasted only a few seconds, but moved them several thousand kilometers closer to their target. Morrison had never attempted anything like this before, and he was not entirely sure the ship's systems could handle the stress of repeated microjumps. During one jump, they emerged directly between two groups of fighting ships and had to dive into the gravity well of a large asteroid to avoid being caught in crossfire. A Zephyrian beam weapon hit the rock above them and turned several thousand tons of metal into glowing vapor. The Dakota's shields protected them from the worst of the debris shower, but Morrison could feel the ship shaking under the impact. Rodriguez picked up a distress signal on human frequencies and looked up excitedly. "Captain, I am getting a weak transmission from the Explorer. They are alive, but their ship is down on the surface of asteroid, designated Kepler 442c. Grant checked her sensors and found the asteroid in question. That rock is about the size of Earth's moon, and it has a thin atmosphere. I am detecting artificial gravity and some kind of environmental system. The precursor ruins are definitely active." Morrison felt a surge of hope mixed with worry. The Explorer's crew was alive, but they were trapped on a contested world while two alien empires fought for control of the space around them. Getting down to the surface and back up again would require perfect timing and more luck than any reasonable person should expect. A new voice entered the conversation as Admiral Vexstar of the Zephyrian fleet broadcast a message on all frequencies. The translation came through Rodriguez's system in mechanical tones that somehow managed to convey arrogance and irritation. "Unknown vessel, you are interfering with a legitimate military operation. Identify yourself immediately or be destroyed." Morrison realized that their repeated microjumps had finally attracted attention from the alien commanders. He looked at his crew and saw determination mixed with fear on their faces. They all knew that one wrong word could bring the combined firepower of both alien fleets down on their heads. Before Morrison could respond, War Prime Gulax of the Krillian Empire added his own threat to the communications channel. His translated voice sounded like metal grinding against stone. "Primitive vessel, you have entered a combat zone claimed by the Krillian Empire. Submit to boarding or face immediate destruction." Grant checked her tactical display and reported what everyone already knew. "Captain, we have weapons locked onto us from both sides. At least 20 ships are targeting us right now." Morrison stood up from his command chair and straightened his uniform. The next few minutes would determine whether the Dakota and its crew lived or died. More importantly, they would determine whether the Explorer's crew and their precious cargo would be rescued or lost forever in this alien war. He activated the communication system and prepared to make the most important speech of his life. Morrison opened a channel to both alien fleets and spoke in the calmest voice he could manage. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Dakota. We are on a rescue mission to recover our people who are stranded on the surface. We have no intention of interfering with your military operations." The response from Admiral Vexstar came back immediately. "Human vessel, your species has no authority in this sector. The precursor artifacts on that world belong to the Zephyrian Coalition by right of superior civilization. You will withdraw immediately." War Prime Gulax disagreed with typical Krillian directness. "The ancient technology belongs to whoever is strong enough to claim it. Humans are weak and have no business in this battle zone. Leave now or be destroyed." Morrison could see that diplomacy was not going to work with either alien commander. Both empires considered humans to be insignificant and were not willing to stop their war just to let one small human ship complete a rescue mission. He needed a different approach that would get his people down to the asteroid surface and back up again before the aliens lost patience completely. Grant was monitoring the tactical situation and noticed something important. "Captain, both fleets are so focused on fighting each other that they are not paying much attention to what happens on the surface. If we can get down there quickly, we might be able to complete our mission before they decide to do something about us." Morrison nodded and activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, Prepare for emergency atmospheric entry. We are going down to the surface to get our people, and we need to do it fast. Everyone hold on." Parker pushed the experimental fusion drives beyond their recommended limits, and the Dakota dove toward the asteroid like a falling star. The ship shook violently as it hit the thin atmosphere, while alien weapons fire lit up the space behind them. Several Zephyrian fighters tried to follow them down, but pulled away when ground-based defense systems started shooting at anything that came too close to the surface. The precursor ruins covered most of the asteroid's surface like a vast mechanical city that had been built by beings who understood technology in ways that current civilizations could barely imagine. Tall spires reached up toward space, while underground installations extended deep into the rock. Energy patterns flowed through the ancient structures in complex rhythms that seemed almost alive. Rodriguez located the explorer's emergency beacon near a cluster of pyramid-shaped buildings that were clearly some kind of research facility. The human research ship had crash-landed in a clearing between several large structures, and its hull was cracked open like an egg. Emergency shelters had been set up nearby where the surviving crew members were hiding from both the battle overhead and the dangerous alien technology surrounding them. Morrison ordered a combat landing near the crash site while Grant prepared a security team to help with the evacuation. Marine Sergeant Rick Stone and Corporal Nina Hayes were the best soldiers on the ship, and Morrison trusted them to keep everyone safe during the dangerous surface operation. The Dakota touched down with a jarring impact that threw everyone against bare restraints. Immediately, the ship's sensors detected movement from multiple directions as both Zephyrian and Krillian ground forces responded to their arrival. Small groups of alien soldiers had been fighting each other among the ruins for days, and they were not happy about human interference. Dr. Watson grabbed her medical supplies and joined the security team as they prepared to leave the ship. Knew that some of the Explorer's crew were probably injured and would need immediate treatment. Stone and Hayes checked their weapons and equipment one final time before opening the airlock doors. The asteroid's artificial gravity was slightly lighter than Earth normal, and the air was thin but breathable thanks to the precursor environmental systems. Morrison could hear the sounds of distant battle echoing through the ancient structures as alien forces continued their fight for control of the ruins. Explosions and weapon fire created an almost constant background noise. Grant stayed on the bridge to coordinate the rescue operation while monitoring the space battle overhead. Both alien fleets were still fighting each other, but some ships were starting to move toward the asteroid. Time was running out, and they needed to complete their mission quickly before overwhelming force arrived on the surface. Stone led the security team toward the Explorer's crash site while scanning for alien soldiers who might try to interfere. The precursor ruins seemed to respond to their presence with subtle changes in lighting and energy patterns. Morrison wondered what the ancient beings who built this place would think about their descendants fighting over the remains of their civilization. They found Dr. Carl Mitchell and 16 other survivors sheltering in a building that looked like it had been designed as some kind of laboratory. Mitchell was a tall, thin man with gray hair and excited eyes who seemed more interested in the alien technology around them than in the danger of their situation. He greeted Morrison with obvious relief, but also with news that changed everything. "Captain, we found something incredible down here." The precursor ruins contain a complete database of their civilization, including records of how and why they fell. This technology could end the war between the Zephyrians and Krillians if we can get it back to Earth. Morrison looked around at the ancient laboratory and saw equipment that seemed to blend organic and mechanical components in ways that defied human understanding. Holographic displays showed star maps and technical diagrams that were far beyond anything current galactic civilizations had achieved. This was exactly the kind of discovery that Earth Command had hoped the Explorer mission would make. Hayes reported movement from the perimeter as alien patrol groups started converging on their position. Captain, we have Zephyrian crystal soldiers approaching from the north and Krillian biotroops coming from the south. Both groups are armed, and they do not look friendly. Watson was treating 3 injured Explorer crew members who had been hurt during the crash landing. These people need proper medical attention, but they can be moved if we are careful. How much time do we have? Morrison checked his communication device and saw updates from Grant about the tactical situation overhead. More alien ships were entering. The atmosphere and ground forces from both empires were moving toward the crash site in increasing numbers. They had maybe 30 minutes before they would be completely surrounded by hostile aliens. Mitchell gathered the most important data crystals and portable equipment while his team prepared to abandon their research site. Captain, the precursor database warns about the danger of endless warfare between different evolutionary paths. They destroyed themselves fighting over the same kinds of differences that divide the Zephyrians and Krillians today. Stone established a defensive perimeter around the crash site, while Rodriguez tried to maintain contact with the Dakota. The ancient ruins seemed to interfere with their communications in strange ways that suggested the precursor technology was still partially active after millions of years. Energy patterns flowed through the structures like blood through veins. A group of Zephyrian soldiers appeared at the edge of the clearing and immediately opened fire with their crystal weapons. The energy beams carved smoking holes in the ancient buildings while Stone and Hayes returned fire with human projectile weapons. The aliens seemed surprised by the effectiveness of primitive kinetic weapons against their advanced armor. Morrison realized that they were about to be caught in a 3-way battle between humans, Zephyrians, and Krillians on the surface of an asteroid filled with dangerous ancient technology. The rescue mission was turning into something much more complicated and deadly than anyone had expected. He activated his communication device and contacted Grant on the ship. Lisa, we need emergency extraction right now. The situation down here is about to get very messy, and we cannot fight our way through 2 alien armies. Grant's voice came back tense but determined. Captain, I am tracking multiple inbound contacts. Both alien fleets are sending reinforcements to the surface. We have maybe 20 minutes before this place is completely overrun. Morrison looked at the Explorer survivors and the precious cargo they carried while explosions echoed through the ancient ruins around them. Getting everyone back to the Dakota alive was going to require the kind of desperate improvisation that humans were famous for. He just hoped it would be enough to save them all. The battle for the precursor ruins turned into chaos as 3 different forces clashed among buildings that had stood empty for millions of years. Morrison coordinated the retreat toward the Dakota, while Stone and Hayes provided covering fire against increasing numbers of alien soldiers. The Zephyrians advanced in perfect formation with their crystal armor, gleaming while the Krillians moved like hunting animals through the ancient structures. Watson helped the injured Explorer crew members, while Mitchell carried the data crystals containing precursor technology that could change the balance of galactic power. Rodriguez maintained contact with Grant aboard the Dakota and provided updates on their desperate situation. The human team was outnumbered at least 10-1, but they had advantages that the aliens did not expect. Morrison noticed that the precursor ruins seemed to respond differently to human presence than to either alien species. When Zephyrian soldiers touched certain surfaces, their crystal weapons would malfunction for brief moments. When Krillian biotroops got too close to specific structures, their organic armor would start behaving strangely. The ancient technology appeared to have been designed to interact with minds that thought more like humans than like either current galactic civilization. Grant's voice crackled through Morrison's communication device as more alien ships entered the atmosphere above them. Captain, Both fleets are demanding that we surrender the precursor artifacts. Admiral Vexstar is threatening to bombard the entire surface if we do not comply immediately. What about War Prime Golax? Morrison asked while helping Watson move one of the injured researchers. He is demanding single combat between champions to determine who gets the ancient technology. Apparently, the Krillians still believe in settling disputes through individual battle. Morrison stopped moving and considered what Grant had just told him. Single combat was an ancient human tradition that most galactic civilizations had abandoned centuries ago. If the Krillian leader was serious about this proposal, it might provide an opportunity to avoid a massacre on the surface while buying time to complete their rescue mission. Stone reported that alien reinforcements were arriving faster than expected. Captain, I count at least 50 Zephyrian soldiers and maybe 30 Krillian biotroops converging on our position. We need to move now, or we are going to be completely surrounded. Hayes discovered something interesting while checking their escape route back to the Dakota. Sir, the precursor defense systems seem to be targeting the alien soldiers, but not us. Some kind of automated weapon just took out a Zephyrian patrol that got too close to the main power core. Morrison realized that the ancient ruins might be more helpful than he had originally thought. If the precursor technology was programmed to protect certain types of visitors while repelling others, the human team might be able to use that advantage to reach their ship safely. He ordered everyone to stay close to the active defense systems while they moved toward the landing site. Mitchell provided crucial information about how the precursor systems worked based on his team's research over the past several days. Captain, the ancient builders designed their technology to recognize cooperative behavior and peaceful intentions. The Zephyrians and Krillians are fighting each other so aggressively that the ruins see them as threats to be eliminated. Rodriguez picked up new communications from both alien fleets as the situation in orbit continued to deteriorate. Admiral Vexstar was demanding immediate surrender, while War Prime Golax was insisting on personal combat between ship commanders. The two alien leaders seemed more interested in fighting each other than in cooperating to capture the human. Team Watson finished treating the most seriously injured Explorer crew member and reported that everyone could be moved if they were careful. These people need proper medical facilities, but they should survive the trip back to the ship if we do not run into any more combat. Morrison made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He activated his communication device and opened a channel to both alien fleet commanders simultaneously. Admiral Vexstar and War Prime Golax, this is Captain Morrison. I propose a solution that will satisfy both of your demands. The response from both aliens came back immediately and with obvious suspicion. Vexstar spoke first with the cold precision typical of his species. Human Captain, you are in no position to propose anything. Surrender the artifacts or face the consequences. Golax disagreed with typical Krillian directness. The human speaks of solutions, but humans are weak. Only strength matters in determining who claims the ancient technology. Morrison took a deep breath and spoke the words that would change everything. I challenge both of your finest champions to single combat with the precursor artifacts as the prize. If your civilizations are truly superior to humanity, then your warriors should have no trouble defeating one human ship. The silence that followed lasted for almost 30 seconds while both alien commanders processed what Morrison had just proposed. Grant's voice came through his communication device, sounding worried and confused. Captain, what are you doing? The Dakota cannot fight both alien fleets at the same time. Morrison knew exactly what he was doing, even if it seemed like madness to everyone else. Humans had always been better at improvisation and adaptation than either Zephyrians or Krillians. The alien civilizations had been fighting the same way for centuries, while humans were still learning how to survive in a hostile galaxy. Sometimes, The best defense was an offense that nobody expected. Vexstar responded first with what sounded like genuine curiosity mixed with contempt. Human Captain, your species builds inferior ships with primitive weapons. What makes you think you can challenge civilizations that have mastered space warfare for millennia? Gulax was more direct, but equally dismissive. Humans are prey animals who hide behind technology instead of fighting with honor. Your challenge is meaningless because you cannot win. Morrison smiled despite their desperate situation and activated the ship-wide communication system so his entire crew could hear what he said next. Admiral Vexstar, your crystal ships are beautiful, but they fight with predictable tactics that have not changed in centuries. War Prime Gulax, your biovessels are impressive, but they rely on brute force instead of intelligence. Humans win battles by thinking differently than our enemies expect. Grant interrupted from the Dakota with tactical information that changed the entire conversation. Captain, I am detecting massive energy buildups in both alien fleets. They are preparing to deploy planet-killer weapons rather than risk losing the precursor technology to their enemies. Morrison felt his blood run cold as he realized what Grant was telling him. Both alien empires were willing to destroy the entire asteroid rather than let their enemies claim the ancient artifacts. Everyone on the surface, including his crew, and the explorer survivors would be vaporized along with millions of years of irreplaceable precursor technology. Hayes reported that the alien ground forces had stopped advancing and were falling back toward their landing sites. Captain, both Zephyrian and Krillian troops are retreating. It looks like they received orders to evacuate before the orbital bombardment begins. Watson helped the last of the injured researchers, while Morrison made the most important decision of his career. All teams returned to the Dakota immediately. We are leaving the surface right now, and we are going to settle this in space where everyone can see the results. Rodriguez picked up transmissions from both alien fleets as they prepared. Their most powerful weapons for a bombardment that would crack the asteroid in half. Captain, we have maybe 10 minutes before they start shooting. Both fleets are moving into bombardment positions. Morrison looked at his crew and the explorer survivors as they reached the Dakota and began emergency boarding procedures. In a few minutes, they would be flying directly into combat against two galactic superpowers with technology far advanced beyond anything humans had ever built. Logic said they had no chance of survival, but Morrison had stopped believing in logic the moment he decided to challenge both alien fleets to single combat. Stone and Hayes were the last ones aboard as the Dakota lifted off from the asteroid's surface and climbed toward the massive alien fleets waiting in orbit. Morrison took his place on the bridge and looked at his crew with pride and determination. They were about to attempt something that would either save them all or get them killed in the most spectacular way possible. Grant reported that both alien fleets had accepted his challenge and were selecting their champion vessels for the combat. Trial. Captain, the Zephyrians are sending the battle cruiser Stellar Dominion, and the Krillians are deploying the biodestroyer Living Vengeance. Both ships are 3 times our size and carry enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Morrison settled into his command chair and prepared for the battle that would determine whether humans deserved a place among the major galactic civilizations or whether they would be remembered as another minor species that tried to reach too high and paid the ultimate price for their ambition. The 3 ships moved toward the center of the debris field, while both alien fleets formed a massive circle around them to watch the battle. Morrison had never seen anything like the Stellar Dominion, with its crystalline hull that seemed to bend light around itself like a prism. The Living Vengeance looked even more terrifying with its organic armor that pulsed like a beating heart and weapon pods that moved like living tentacles. Grant worked frantically at her tactical station, analyzing the capabilities of both enemy vessels. Captain, The Zephyrian ship has energy shields that can absorb incredible amounts of damage and weapons that fire concentrated particle beams. The Krillian vessel has regenerative armor that can heal battle damage and projectile weapons that track their targets. Parker reported from engineering that all human systems were running at maximum efficiency. Captain, I have routed extra power to shields and weapons, but we are still outgunned by at least 5-1. Those alien ships carry enough firepower to destroy us several times over. Morrison knew that conventional tactics would get them killed in the first few minutes of combat. The Dakota could not match either enemy ship in raw firepower or defensive capability, but humans had other advantages that alien commanders might not expect. He activated the communication system and spoke to his crew with calm confidence. Everyone listened carefully. We cannot win this battle by fighting the way our enemies expect us to fight. The Zephyrians use mathematical precision, and the Krillians rely on biological adaptation, but humans use creativity and unpredictability. We are going to show both alien fleets why underestimating humanity is a dangerous mistake. Rodriguez monitored communications from both alien fleets and reported that thousands of ships were watching the battle. Captain, this fight is being broadcast across known space. Every major civilization in the galaxy is going to see what happens here today. Watson coordinated damage control teams while monitoring crew stress levels. Human biology was different from alien physiology in ways that could be either helpful or harmful during extended combat. All medical teams are standing by. Everyone is focused and ready for battle. The three ships reached the designated combat zone and immediately began maneuvering for advantage. Captain Kethver of the Stellar Dominion opened fire first with crystalline energy beams that could slice through solid metal like a hot knife through butter. Brood leader Ishan of the Living Vengeance responded with bioprojectiles that moved like guided missiles seeking their targets. Morrison ordered emergency evasive maneuvers as both alien weapons converged on the Dakota's position. Lisa, target the debris field around us. I want every piece of wreckage turned into weapons we can use against them. Grant understood immediately what Morrison was planning and began firing at large chunks of destroyed alien ships floating nearby. Human projectile weapons shattered the debris into thousands of smaller pieces that spread out like a metal cloud between the three vessels. The alien commanders had never seen anyone use battlefield wreckage as a tactical weapon. The Stellar Dominion tried to burn through the debris cloud with its energy beams, but the scattered metal absorbed and reflected the crystal weapons in unpredictable directions. Some of the reflected energy hit the Living Vengeance and caused minor damage to its organic armor. Kethvar was forced to stop firing to avoid hitting his Krillian opponent by accident. Morrison took advantage of the confusion to move the Yovi Dakota through the debris field using micro-jumps that the alien ships could not match. Parker pushed the experimental fusion drives beyond their design limits, while Grant coordinated precision strikes against specific target points on both enemy vessels. The Living Vengeance tried to pursue them through the wreckage, but it's larger. Size made it clumsy in the confined space. Ishan fired bioprojectiles that were designed to track moving targets, but the debris interfered with their guidance systems, and many of them hit floating wreckage instead of the Dakota. Some of the missed shots struck the Stellar Dominion and caused its crystal hull to resonate in ways that disrupted its own weapons. Grant discovered something important about how the two alien ships interacted with each other. Captain, their weapons are designed to fight specific types of opponents. The Zephyrian energy beams are optimized against Krillian bioarmor, and the Krillian projectiles are designed to penetrate crystal hulls. They are more dangerous to each other than they are to us. Morrison realized that Grant had identified the key to winning this impossible battle. The alien civilizations had been fighting each other for so long that their military technology was specifically designed to counter their traditional enemy. Human ships used different materials and design principles that neither alien weapons system was optimized to destroy. Rodriguez reported that both alien fleets were becoming agitated as the battle continued longer than expected. Captain, the fleet commanders are demanding to know why their championships cannot destroy one small human vessel. Some of the alien captains are suggesting that their champions are not fighting seriously. Morrison decided to escalate the battle before either alien fleet lost patience and decided to intervene directly. Ben, I need everything you can give me from the fusion drives. Lisa, prepare for close combat maneuvering. The Dakota accelerated toward both alien ships simultaneously using a flight pattern that no sane pilot would attempt under normal circumstances. Morrison was counting on human reflexes and adaptability to keep them alive during the most dangerous part of the battle. Parker rerouted power in ways that would horrify safety inspectors, but maximize their combat capability. Grant coordinated a complex attack pattern that targeted both enemy ships at the same time. Human weapons fired at the connection points between the stellar Dominion's crystal segments while simultaneously hitting the neural clusters that controlled the Living Vengeance's organic systems. Neither alien captain expected the small human ship to attack both of them simultaneously. The precision strikes caused both alien vessels to experience system failures that their designers had never anticipated. The Stellar Dominion's crystal hull began resonating in harmonics that interfered with its own energy weapons, while the Living Vengeance's biosystems started fighting each other instead of focusing on external threats. Watson reported from the medical bay that the crew was handling the stress of combat better than expected. Everyone is performing above normal parameters. Human adrenaline response is giving us advantages that alien physiology cannot match. Morrison executed the final phase of his battle plan by positioning the Dakota so that both alien ships were targeting each other instead of the human vessel. Lisa, on my mark, I want you to shut down all our systems and play dead. Make them think we have been destroyed. Grant cut power to everything except life support, and the Dakota drifted like a piece of debris while the Stellar Dominion and Living Vengeance continued their battle. Both alien captains believed they had destroyed the human ship and focused their attention on defeating their traditional enemy. The crystal beams and bioprojectiles that had been meant for the Dakota struck each other's vessels with devastating effect. Cathvar and Ishan realized too late that they had been manipulated into fighting each other while the real threat played dead among the wreckage. Both alien champions had been outmaneuvered by tactics that neither civilization had encountered before. The Dakota emerged from the debris field with its weapons targeting both disabled enemy vessels. Morrison opened a communication channel to both alien fleets while their champion ships drifted helpless in the debris field. Admiral Vextar and War Prime Galax, your champions have been defeated by human tactics and creativity. The precursor artifacts belong to Earth by right of victory. The silence that followed lasted for several minutes while both alien commanders processed what had just happened. A species they considered primitive had defeated their finest warships using strategies that neither galactic superpower had ever seen before. Rodriguez reported that communications traffic between alien ships showed confusion and growing respect for human capabilities. Mitchell examined the precursor database and discovered something that changed everything. Captain, the ancient records show that the precursor civilization fell because they could not balance cooperation and competition. They destroyed themselves fighting over the same kinds of differences that divide current galactic civilizations. Morrison realized that the precursor warning applied directly to the current situation between the Zephyrians and Krillians. Both empires were making the same mistakes that had destroyed a civilization far more advanced than either of them. The ancient technology was not just powerful weapons, but also a lesson about the dangers of eternal warfare. Grant reported that both alien fleets were withdrawing from combat positions and requesting diplomatic contact with Earth. Captain, it appears that our victory has convinced both empires that humans deserve recognition as equals in galactic politics. Morrison stood up from his command chair and looked around at his crew with pride and satisfaction. They had accomplished something that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. The Dakota had proven that human creativity and adaptability could overcome superior technology when applied with intelligence and courage.